The impossible discovery Captain Sarah Chen had seen many strange things during her 15 years exploring the outer rim of known space. But nothing had prepared her for what floated before the bridge of her research vessel, the Pathfinder. Her hands gripped the command chair so tightly her knuckles turned white as she stared through the main viewport at something that shouldn't exist. The object ahead of them wasn't a planet, though it was easily large enough to be one. It wasn't an asteroid, despite its rocky appearance. What Sarah and her crew were looking at was unmistakably artificial. A constructed vessel of impossible proportions that stretched across the darkness of space like a sleeping giant. "Computer, confirm size readings," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. The ship's AI responded in its calm, mechanical tone. Vessel length, 450,000 kilometers. Width, 280,000 kilometers. Height, 120,000 kilometers. Mass, approximately equivalent to Earth's moon. Lieutenant Marcus Webb, the ship's science officer, ran his hands through his gray hair and shook his head in disbelief. "Captain, those readings have to be wrong. Nothing that big could be artificially constructed. The materials alone would require stripping entire star systems." Sarah turned to face her crew of 12. All experienced deep space explorers who had volunteered for this long-range mission to map the unexplored regions beyond the Perseus Arm. They had been traveling for 8 months, following gravitational anomalies that suggested the presence of large objects in the void between star systems. None of them had expected to find this. "Run the scans again, Marcus. Triple-check everything," Sarah ordered, while the science officer worked frantically at his console. Sarah studied the massive structure before them. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, with strange geometric patterns etched across its surface that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. No lights were visible anywhere on its exterior, no signs of active systems or life support. It appeared completely dead, a tomb drifting silently through space. "Captain," called out Navigator Jennifer Hayes from her station. "I'm detecting multiple similar objects in the surrounding area. Long-range sensors show at least 6 more vessels of comparable size within a 50-light-year radius." The bridge fell silent, except for the soft humming of the ship's systems. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. One ship of this size was incomprehensible. 7 of them suggested something far more significant than just an abandoned vessel. "Ma'am, the readings are confirmed," Marcus announced, his voice tight with tension. "That thing out there really is as big as a small moon. The hull appears to be constructed from some kind of composite material I've never seen before. It's not responding to any of our scans, but there are faint energy readings coming from deep within its core." Communications Officer David Park suddenly looked up from his station, his face pale. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange. There's a very weak signal coming from inside that ship. It's not a distress call or any kind of standard communication. It sounds almost like breathing." Sarah made a decision that would change the course of human history. "Take us closer. I want a full sensor sweep of that hull. Look for docking ports, airlocks, anything that might give us a way inside. Captain, with respect, shouldn't we report this to Earth Command first?" asked her first officer, Commander Lisa Rodriguez. "Something this significant, ... "No," Sarah cut her off firmly. "We document everything first, then we report. If we send a message now, this place will be swarming with military vessels within 6 months. I want to know what we're dealing with before the politicians and generals get involved." The Pathfinder approached the massive derelict slowly. its sensors working overtime to map every detail of the alien construction. As they drew closer, the true scale of the ship became even more apparent. Their own vessel, which was considered large by human standards at 300 meters long, looked like an ant crawling across the surface of a mountain. "Captain, I'm reading atmosphere inside that thing," Marcus called out excitedly. "Breathable atmosphere. Temperature readings suggest climate control systems are still functioning at minimal levels. Any signs of life? Nothing definitive, but those energy readings are getting stronger as we approach. Whatever's powering the ship is still active after who knows how long." Sarah made another crucial decision. "Prepare a boarding party. I want to see the inside of this thing." "Ma'am, the regulations clearly state that first contact situations require. This isn't first contact," Commander Sarah interrupted. "This is exploration. That ship is dead or dormant. We're doing what humans have always done when faced with the unknown. We're going to take a closer look." 2 hours later, Sarah led a team of 5 specialists through the airlocks of what appeared to be a docking bay on the massive vessel's lower hull. The bay itself was large enough to hold a dozen ships the size of the Pathfinder, with towering walls that disappeared into darkness above them. Their flashlights revealed architecture unlike anything in human experience. The walls were smooth and curved, flowing like liquid metal that had been frozen in place. Strange symbols were carved into surfaces throughout the bay, glowing faintly with internal light when their beams passed over them. "The gravity here is perfect," observed Dr. Emily Santos, the team's xenobiologist. "One Earth gravity, exactly. Either that's an incredible coincidence, or this ship was designed with beings like us in mind." They made their way through corridors that were clearly built for humanoid occupants, though everything was scaled larger than necessary for humans. The ceilings were at least 4 meters high, and the doorways were broad enough for 3 people to walk through side by side. "Look at this," Marcus whispered, running his hand along one of the glowing symbols on the wall. "The material is warm to the touch, and these markings seem to be some kind of writing system, but it's like nothing in our xenolinguistic databases." As they ventured deeper into the ship, the ambient lighting gradually increased, as if the vessel was slowly awakening to their presence. Corridors that had been dark began to illuminate with soft, blue-white light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. "Captain, we need to head back," urged Commander Rodriguez through their comm system from the Pathfinder. "I'm reading massive power fluctuations throughout that ship. Something is definitely waking up in there." Sarah was about to respond when a sound echoed through the corridors around them, a deep, resonant tone that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It wasn't mechanical. It sounded almost organic, like the breathing David had detected earlier, but amplified 1,000 times. Then, without warning, words formed in their minds, not heard through their ears, but placed directly into their consciousness in perfect, clear English. "Welcome, children of Earth. We have been waiting for you." The team froze, their flashlights trembling in their hands. Sarah found her voice. "First, who are you? Are you the builders of this ship? We are the guardians left behind by those who came before. This vessel and others like it have waited in the void for eons, until a species worthy of our purpose would find us. You have proven yourselves through courage and curiosity qualities that mark you as suitable inheritors of our responsibility." Dr. Santos stepped forward, her scientific mind overcoming her fear. "Inheritors of what responsibility? What is this ship's purpose?" The voice paused, and Sarah could feel something vast and ancient considering her response. To protect the young civilizations of this galaxy from what lies beyond the light of stars. Your species has shown remarkable adaptation and resilience. Among all the races we have observed, only humanity possesses the necessary combination of determination and compassion to wield our fleet. Sarah asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. 7 vessels, like this one, each capable of defending entire star systems, built by the predecessors before they transcended physical existence. We have watched your species spread among the stars, watched you face impossible odds and emerge victorious. You do not surrender. You do not abandon the innocent. These qualities make you worthy. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. Humanity had just inherited a fleet of ships larger than planets, each one apparently armed and ready for war. But war against what? Before she could ask, alarms began sounding throughout the massive vessel. The Guardian's voice returned, urgent now. Others have detected our awakening. The galaxy will know soon that the ancient fleet stirs once more. You must return to your ship and prepare your people. The time of trial approaches faster than we anticipated. As Sarah and her team raced back through the corridors toward their ship, she realized that everything was about to change, not just for humanity, but for every civilization in the galaxy. They had stumbled upon something that would shift the balance of power among the stars forever. Back aboard the Pathfinder, Sarah stood on the bridge, watching the massive ship slowly come to life around them. Lights began appearing across its hull like cities, awakening at dawn. The breathing sound was now clearly audible through their speakers, rhythmic and patient. Commander Rodriguez, send a priority message to Earth Command, Sarah ordered. Tell them we've made contact with something ancient and powerful. Tell them humanity just became the inheritors of the most advanced military fleet in galactic history. What should I say about our situation here? Sarah looked out at the awakening giant that dwarfed their ship and felt the weight of destiny settling on her shoulders. Tell them we're about to find out if we're ready for what's coming. Galactic panic and ancient warnings. The message from Captain Sarah Chen's expedition reached Earth Command 72 hours after first transmission, traveling through a series of quantum communication relays that spanned half the galaxy. Within minutes of its decryption, every major government on Earth was placed on high alert, and within hours, the news had leaked to every alien embassy and trade mission in human space. Ambassador Zethkar of the Centauri Federation was the first alien official to demand an emergency meeting with the Human Colonial Council. His species, tall and elegant with crystalline skin that reflected light like living prisms, had maintained peaceful relations with humanity for over 2 centuries. But as he stood before the council chamber in Geneva, his usual composure was shattered. You cannot possibly comprehend what you have discovered, Zethkar declared, his translated voice carrying harmonics of fear that made the humans uncomfortable. The ships you describe, they are the dreadnoughts of the predecessors. They are legend, they are nightmare. They were never meant to be awakened. Secretary-General Maria Vasquez, a veteran diplomat who had negotiated countless treaties between human and alien civilizations, leaned forward in her chair. Ambassador, with respect, our people discovered these vessels in unclaimed space. Whatever they are, they've chosen to communicate with us. They've called us worthy inheritors. Zethkar's crystalline features shifted through spectrum of colors that indicated extreme agitation. Worthy, do you understand what those ships did the last time they were active? Entire civilizations vanished. Star systems went dark. The predecessors didn't just build weapons, they built instruments of galactic genocide. The chamber fell silent. Secretary General Vasquez exchanged glances with her advisors. This was far worse than they had imagined. How long ago was this? How do you know about these ships? 7 million years ago, according to our most ancient records, Zethkar replied. Every spacefaring civilization in the galaxy has legends about the Great Silence, time when hundreds of advanced species simply disappeared without a trace. Our historians believe the predecessor fleet was responsible. Defense Minister Chen Li, Sarah's distant cousin, spoke up from his position at the council table. If these ships are so dangerous, why would they choose to awaken for us? Why would they call us worthy? Before Zethkar could respond, another voice cut through the chamber, because they're preparing for something worse. All eyes turned to the entrance where a figure none of them had expected to see stood waiting. Ambassador Vex9 of the Nexus Collective had arrived unannounced, which was unprecedented in diplomatic protocol. The Collective was the galaxy's oldest known civilization, having achieved spaceflight when humanity's ancestors were still learning to use fire. Vex9 himself was ancient even by collective standards, his metal and flesh hybrid body showing modifications that spanned millennia. How did you get past our security? Secretary General Vasquez demanded. Your security systems are designed to detect biological and technological threats, Vex9 replied, his voice carrying the weight of eons. They are not equipped to recognize beings who have transcended such simple categories. I came as soon as I detected the resonant signatures from the predecessor fleet. Vex9 moved into the chamber with mechanical precision, his multiple optical sensors focusing on the humans with unnerving intensity. The predecessors did not create those ships to conquer. They created them to defend. The Great Silence, 7 million years ago, was not genocide. It was evacuation. Evacuation from what? Minister Chen demanded. From the Devourers, a force of pure entropy that exists between galaxies, consuming everything in its path. Matter, energy, even space-time itself. The predecessors learned of their approach and attempted to save as many civilizations as possible by relocating them to protected dimensions. Zethkar's coloration shifted to deep purple, indicating shock. That's not what our records say. The archives speak of war, of the predecessors destroying anyone who opposed them. Your archives are incomplete, Vex9 stated flatly. The Collective survived because we were among the first to accept evacuation. We remember the truth. The predecessors saved billions of lives, but at great cost to themselves. They expended so much energy in the process that they were forced to transcend physical existence, leaving only their guardian fleet behind. Secretary General Vasquez felt the weight of galactic history settling on the chamber. And now these devourers are returning. The guardian ships would not awaken without cause, Vex9 confirmed. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected gravitational anomalies consistent with transgalactic travel. Something massive is moving through the void between Andromeda and the Milky Way. Based on the fleet's activation, I estimate we have perhaps 50 years before it arrives. The implications struck everyone in the room simultaneously. Humanity had just inherited responsibility for defending the entire galaxy from a threat so terrible that it had forced the most advanced civilization in history to abandon physical existence. Why us? Vasquez asked quietly. Why did the ships choose humanity? Vex9's optical sensors whirred as they focused on her. Because you possess something most species lose as they advance technologically, the willingness to sacrifice for others. The collective analyzed your species extensively before making contact. Your history shows a consistent pattern of individuals and groups sacrificing themselves for the greater good, even when facing impossible odds. That's a romanticized view of human nature, Minister Chen objected. We've fought wars, committed atrocities, yes, Vex9 interrupted. But you've also consistently produced individuals who stand against the darkness, regardless of personal cost. The predecessors programmed their guardian fleet to seek out species with this specific psychological profile. Among all the civilizations currently active in this galaxy, only humanity demonstrates the necessary combination of courage, adaptability, and moral flexibility. Ambassador Zethkar had been listening in stunned silence, his crystalline skin cycling through colors of confusion and dawning realization. You're saying the fate of every living being in the galaxy now rests with a species that achieved spaceflight less than 1,000 years ago. Precisely, Vex9 confirmed. And based on the collective's analysis, this is our best chance for survival. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her vessel, now docked inside one of the massive Guardian ships. The interior of the ancient craft defied comprehension, corridors wide enough to fly shuttles through, chambers that could house entire cities, and control rooms filled with technology that seemed to respond to thought rather than physical manipulation. The Guardian entity that had first spoken to them had identified itself as Overseer Prime, the controlling intelligence of the lead vessel. Through their conversations, Sarah had learned that each of the 7 ships contained similar entities, consciousnesses created by the predecessors to maintain and operate their fleet across the millennia. The knowledge transfer is necessary, Overseer Prime explained, its voice now coming through speakers installed throughout the ship. Your species must understand both the capabilities and limitations of these vessels. We are powerful, but we are not invincible. The Devourers have had 7 million years to evolve and adapt. The coming conflict will test every aspect of your species' ingenuity. Sarah walked through a corridor lined with viewing ports that showed the interior of the ship, vast spaces filled with machinery beyond human comprehension. How many people can these ships carry? Each vessel can support approximately 1 million beings in emergency conditions, 10 million comfortably for extended periods. They are designed to serve as mobile worlds if necessary, complete with closed-loop life support, manufacturing capabilities, and defensive systems that can repel planetary bombardment. The numbers boggled her mind. 7 ships, each capable of housing 50 million people. They could evacuate the entire population of Earth if necessary. But evacuation to where? Overseer Prime, if these Devourers are as powerful as you suggest, is fighting them even possible? Or are we just delaying the inevitable? There was a long pause before the entity responded, and when it did, Sarah detected something she hadn't heard before. The predecessors believed that given sufficient time and preparation, they could have found a way to defeat the Devourers permanently rather than simply avoiding them. They transcended before completing their research, but they left extensive databases with their theoretical work. Combined with your species' unique approach to problem-solving, there may be possibilities they never considered. You mean we might actually be able to win? I mean that for the first time in 7 million years, the galaxy has a chance to fight back instead of simply running away. Whether that chance is sufficient remains to be seen. As news of the awakened fleet spread throughout galactic civilization, reactions varied wildly. Some species began immediate preparations for evacuation, assuming humanity would fail as every other species had before. Others started forming alliances, hoping to share in whatever protection the ancient ships might provide. A few, particularly the more militant civilizations, began mobilizing their own fleets, either to support humanity or to challenge them for control of the predecessor vessels. But in the deepest archives of the galaxy's oldest civilizations, scholars and historians began searching through records that hadn't been accessed in millions of years. They were looking for any additional information about the Devourers, any clue that might help in the coming battle. What they found would terrify and inspire in equal measure. The galaxy was about to discover just how far humanity was willing to go to protect others, and whether that would be enough to face a threat that had destroyed civilizations beyond counting. In her private quarters aboard the Guardian ship, Sarah Chen looked out at the stars and wondered if she was seeing them for the last time. Tomorrow they would begin the journey back to human space, carrying with them the most important discovery in galactic history. But she couldn't shake the feeling that they were also carrying a burden too great for any single species to bear. The question wasn't whether humanity would accept the responsibility. She already knew they would. The question was whether they could grow strong enough, fast enough, to fulfill the role the predecessors had chosen for them. The survival of everything they'd ever known depended on the answer.